Welcome back to the channel and a huge warm welcome to everyone who loves hidden treasure, everyday objects with extraordinary secrets, and the thrilling idea that something as small and ordinary as a single penny could be worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, and lifetime fortunes combined, because today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and talked about mysteries in modern American numismatics. The incredible story of the 1995 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors around the world with rumors, discoveries, and possibilities suggesting that under the right circumstances, with the right errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies, a simple copper-colored coin could command an astonishing value reaching as high as $43 million, and as you listen closely you may realize that the pennies hiding in old jars, drawers, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls might not be as ordinary as they seem, because the 1995 Lincoln cent was produced during a time of major transitions at the United States Mint, a period marked by massive production demands, changes in dies, aging equipment, human oversight, and experimental processes that together created the perfect environment for rare and dramatic mint errors to slip into circulation unnoticed. And to understand why a 1995 1-cent coin could even be discussed in the same sentence as a multimillion-dollar valuation, we have to explore how pennies are normally made, what went wrong in specific cases, and how rarity, condition, historical context, and collector psychology combine to transform a 1-cent piece into a legendary artifact. Because in 1995 the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln cents at facilities like Philadelphia and Denver, primarily using copper-plated zinc planchets that had been standard since 1982, and with such massive output even a tiny fraction of mistakes could result in thousands of error coins, yet only a handful of the most extreme, dramatic, and unique errors ever achieve life-changing value. And among these are possibilities such as double die obverse errors where the design elements like Lincoln's profile, the date, or inscriptions appear visibly doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process, and while common doubling is often minor and machine-related, true double dies show strong, rounded, and separated images that cannot be replicated after striking, making them highly desirable, and in rare theoretical cases a 1995 cent could exhibit an ultra-dramatic double die combined with other anomalies like off-center strikes, wrong planchet composition, or brockage errors, creating a one-of-a-kind coin that defies standard classification. And when collectors encounter something that appears truly unique, the bidding can escalate into extraordinary territory, especially if the coin is authenticated and graded by a top-tier service, because trust and verification are everything at the highest levels of the market. And another powerful factor behind the rumored $43 million value lies in transitional metal errors, because although most 1995 pennies were struck on copper-plated zinc, the existence of experimental planchets, leftover copper blanks, or even foreign planchets accidentally fed into presses opens the door to coins with unexpected weight, thickness, and metallic composition, and history has shown us that cents struck on the wrong metal, especially when tied to a year not supposed to use that composition, can become some of the most valuable coins ever known. And if a 1995 cent were discovered struck on a solid copper planchet or an entirely different alloy intended for another denomination, it would immediately attract intense scrutiny and global attention. And that attention only multiplies if the coin also exhibits pristine condition, sharp strike, and minimal wear, because condition plays a massive role in valuation, with top-graded mint state coins commanding exponentially higher prices than circulated examples. And beyond metal composition there are striking errors such as multiple strikes where a coin is struck more than once without being ejected from the press, creating overlapping images that appear almost surreal, or cap die errors where a previously struck coin becomes lodged in the die and then repeatedly strikes subsequent planchets, transferring distorted impressions and creating a chain of bizarre, artistic results. And in the most extreme hypothetical scenario, a 1995 cent could combine a multiple strike, an off-center strike, and a wrong planchet, producing a visual and technical marvel that exists nowhere else, and collectors are known to pay staggering sums for uniqueness, because while rarity matters, absolute uniqueness transcends traditional price guides. And then there are die errors like die cracks, cuds, and retained breaks, which occur when the die itself begins to fail, allowing metal to flow into cracks or missing sections, creating raised blobs or missing design elements on the coin. And while many die cracks are common and add only modest value, massive cuds that dramatically alter the appearance of Lincoln's portrait or obliterate inscriptions can become famous varieties, especially if they are discovered early in the die's life and appear on only a handful of coins. And when such errors occur in combination with others, the result can be breathtaking. And another fascinating possibility involves mirror-like proof-style surfaces appearing on circulation strikes, which could result from highly polished dies or experimental treatments. And if a 1995 circulation cent displayed deep mirrored fields with frosted devices similar to proof coins yet lacked official proof designation, it would raise questions about mint practices and experimental runs, fueling collector fascination and speculation. And speculation itself plays a powerful role in valuation, because when a coin becomes the subject of stories, articles, videos, and debates, its perceived importance grows, and in numismatics perception often translates directly into price, especially when wealthy collectors compete for prestige and the right to own a legendary piece. And the 1995 cent also sits at an interesting point in Lincoln cent history, as it falls between major design changes, with the Lincoln Memorial reverse still in use, and collectors often seek standout examples from each era. And when a coin from a relatively modern year suddenly defies expectations by achieving mythical value, it captures the imagination of both seasoned numismatists and casual viewers alike, because it challenges the assumption that only ancient or early American coins can be worth millions, and mistakes like misaligned dies can create rotated dies where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, resulting in dramatic rotational errors that can be measured in degrees. And extreme rotations are far rarer and more valuable than minor ones, especially if the rotation is close to 180 degrees. And imagine a 1995 cent with a dramatic double die, struck on the wrong planchet, with a massive cut and extreme rotation, preserved in near-perfect condition. Such a coin would be more than just a collectible, it would be a phenomenon, and phenomena attract money. And beyond physical errors there is also the mystery of undocumented varieties, because not every die variety is immediately discovered. And some remain hidden for decades until a sharp-eyed collector notices a subtle difference in lettering, spacing, or design detail. And once a new variety is confirmed and catalogued, early examples often surge in value, especially if the population is extremely low. And the idea that a unique 1995 cent could exist undetected for years only adds to the allure, because it suggests that history is still unfolding, and that incredible discoveries are still possible in modern coinage. And authentication becomes the gatekeeper to fortune, because without certification even the most spectacular coin will struggle to reach its full potential. But once authenticated, graded, photographed, and publicized, it enters the realm of elite collectibles, where auction houses, private brokers, and high-net-worth individuals operate. And at that level prices are driven not just by rarity but by storytelling, provenance, and bragging rights. And a coin rumored or proven to be worth $43 million would instantly become one of the most famous pennies in existence, discussed alongside legendary errors like the 1943 copper cent or the 1955 double die. And while skepticism is healthy, because not every claim withstands scrutiny, the very fact that such discussions exist highlights how powerful the combination of errors, mistakes, and possibilities can be, and it encourages collectors to examine their coins more carefully. Next. 1996 D1 cent today, because what you're about to hear sounds unbelievable, and yet it is one of the most fascinating mysteries in modern American coin collecting. A simple copper-colored coin that most people have held, spent, or tossed into a jar without a second thought, the 1996 D1-cent coin, a penny that on its face looks completely ordinary, but according to collectors, researchers, error specialists, and longtime numismatists, may hide a combination of rare minting mistakes, production anomalies, and once-in-a-generation circumstances that could push its value into a staggering $30 million, and today we're going to walk step by step through why this claim exists, how such a value could even be possible, what errors and mistakes are involved, and how the tiniest details can transform pocket change into a legendary treasure. So sit back, relax, and stay with us, because by the end of this story you may never look at a penny the same way again, and you might even feel inspired to check every coin you've ever saved, because the 1996 D Lincoln cent was born during a fascinating transitional era for the United States Mint, a time when technology, materials, and pressure to produce massive quantities of coins collided, creating the perfect environment for errors to slip through unnoticed. And to understand why this penny has captured so much attention, we first need to understand the environment in which it was made. The Denver Mint in 1996 was operating at full speed, producing billions of coins for circulation, with demand for cents still extremely high. Vending machines, parking meters, cash transactions, and everyday commerce all relied heavily on small denominations. And when mints are pushed to produce enormous volumes quickly, quality control can suffer, not intentionally, but as an unavoidable side effect of speed. Worn dies, misaligned presses, incorrect planchets, and experimental adjustments can all contribute to coins that escape detection, and the 1996 D-cent is believed by some experts to be a product of multiple overlapping mistakes rather than a single obvious error, which is what makes it so intriguing, because instead of one dramatic flaw, this penny may carry a rare combination of subtle anomalies that only appear together on an extremely small number of examples. And rarity combined with mystery is what fuels astronomical valuations in the collector world, one of the most discussed possibilities surrounding the 1996 D penny involves a transitional alloy error. By the mid-1990s, Lincoln cents were supposed to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets, a change that had been implemented years earlier to reduce costs, but transitional errors occur when planchets intended for another year, composition, or experiment accidentally get fed into the presses, and some collectors believe that a microscopic batch of 1996 D cents may have been struck on an incorrect alloy, potentially a bronze composition or an experimental mix that was never meant for circulation, and if proven, such a coin would instantly become one of the rarest modern cents in existence, because unlike earlier transitional errors that were caught relatively quickly, this one would have slipped through during a high-volume year, making it nearly impossible to trace how many were made, or if only one or two exist, and that uncertainty alone drives speculation into the millions. But composition is only the beginning of the story. Another major factor frequently discussed is die deterioration and hub doubling. The 1996 D penny shows known varieties with subtle doubling on the obverse, particularly in the date, the letters of liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust," but the rumored $30 million version is said to display an extreme, multi-stage doubled die that was later partially polished away, creating a ghost-like secondary image that appears differently under varying light and magnification, making it easy to miss during casual inspection. And this kind of partially erased doubled die is exceptionally rare, because it represents a specific moment in the die's life cycle, after the error occurred but before it was fully corrected, meaning only a tiny number of coins could have been struck in that window. And when collectors find such coins, they're not just buying metal, they're buying a frozen moment in mint history, a snapshot of human error intersecting with industrial precision. And then there is the possibility of a mule or wrong die pairing. Although no confirmed examples have been publicly displayed, rumors persist of a 1996 D cent struck with an obverse or reverse die not intended for that year, possibly even involving an experimental reverse hub or a die prepared for a commemorative test. Mule errors are among the most valuable mistakes in numismatics because they were never supposed to exist, and when one surfaces, it challenges official mint records, forces re-evaluation of production logs, and often triggers bidding wars among elite collectors who want to own a piece of minting history that technically should not exist. And beyond mules, there is also discussion of off-metal strikes, where the coin was struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, and while off-metal errors are known, a confirmed 1996 D-cent on an exotic or experimental planchet would be unprecedented, especially if it shows full, sharp detail rather than a weak or incomplete strike, because sharp detail proves the coin was struck with proper pressure, suggesting the planchet was close in size and thickness to a cent, raising even more questions about how it entered the production line, and each unanswered question adds another zero to the speculative value. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the $30 million theory is the idea of stacked errors, meaning a single coin that exhibits multiple rare mistakes simultaneously, such as a double die combined with an off-center strike, combined with a wrong alloy, combined with die cracks or cuds that indicate late-stage die failure. A coin like that would be statistically extraordinary, because the odds of all those errors aligning on one strike are astronomically low, and collectors don't just value rarity, they value improbability, the sense that a coin represents something that should almost never happen, and the more unlikely the event, the higher the perceived value, especially when wealthy collectors compete for bragging rights, museum-level prestige, and the thrill of owning something no one else can. And this is where the $30 million figure comes into play, not as a guaranteed price, but as a theoretical valuation based on precedent, because in numismatics, prices are often driven by what the highest bidder is willing to pay, not by intrinsic metal value. And when you look at other legendary coins like the 1943 copper penny or the 1913 Liberty nickel, their values skyrocketed not just because of rarity, but because of story, mystery, and cultural impact. And the 1996 D penny, if confirmed with the rumored characteristics, would represent the modern equivalent of those legends, a reminder that even in an age of advanced technology, mistakes can still happen, and sometimes those mistakes create history. And another angle that collectors discuss is the possibility of a special strike, such as a presentation strike, test strike, or improperly released specimen coin. The Denver Mint is not typically associated with proof coins, but that doesn't mean experimental or specially prepared strikes never occur. And if a 1996 D-cent were struck with unusually polished dies, sharper rims, and mirror-like fields. Next. 2006 D1 cent today. This is the place where everyday coins turn into unbelievable stories and pocket change transforms into potential fortunes. And today's journey is one that sounds almost impossible at first glance because we are talking about a humble 2006 D Lincoln 1-cent coin, a penny most people have spent without a second thought. Yet in rare and extraordinary circumstances, this ordinary coin has been rumored, theorized, and passionately discussed among collectors as a piece that could command an astonishing value of up to $21 million. And while that number alone grabs attention, what truly makes this story fascinating is the combination of minting errors, production mistakes, material anomalies, and historical coincidences that could elevate a single copper-plated zinc cent into the realm of legendary numismatic treasures. Because the year 2006 was a time when the United States Mint was producing billions of pennies at high speed, especially at the Denver Mint, which struck the 2006 D cents, and whenever mass production meets tight deadlines, aging machinery, and microscopic tolerances, the door opens for mistakes that are invisible to the naked eye but priceless to collectors who know what to look for. And one of the most discussed possibilities begins with dramatic off-metal errors, where a 2006 D cent might have been struck on a wrong planchet, such as a bronze alloy leftover from pre-1982 compositions or even a foreign metal blank, and If a genuine 2006 D penny were discovered struck on solid copper or another incorrect alloy and authenticated by a major grading service, it would instantly become one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents in existence, because modern off-metal errors are far rarer than their older counterparts due to improved quality control, and rarity combined with demand is the foundation of extreme value, especially when collectors specialize in modern mint errors and compete fiercely for one-of-a-kind discoveries. And beyond wrong planchets, there is the captivating world of double die errors, where the coin's design is doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process, and while minor doubling is common and often worthless, a true dramatic double die obverse or reverse on a 2006 D cent with strong, separated doubling on Lincoln's portrait, date, or lettering would create a sensation across the numismatic community, particularly if the doubling were bold enough to rival famous doubled dies of earlier decades. And when such an error occurs in a modern year where few examples are known, the price ceiling becomes theoretical rather than fixed, meaning elite collectors could push values into unimaginable territory if only one or two examples exist. And then there are mule errors, a category so rare that many collectors will never see one in their lifetime, where two mismatched dies are paired together accidentally, and while a Lincoln cent mule would require an extraordinary breakdown in mint procedures, the mere possibility keeps error specialists searching, because if a 2006 D penny were struck with a mismatched reverse or an unintended die pairing from a different denomination or design stage, the coin would instantly transcend normal valuation logic and become a museum-level artifact rather than a simple collectible. And equally compelling are broad strike errors and partial collar strikes, where the coin spreads wider than intended due to a malfunctioning collar. And although many broad strikes exist, an extreme example with dramatic distortion combined with other errors such as off-center strikes or rotated dies could push a 2006 D cent into elite status, especially when error stacking occurs, which is when multiple mint mistakes happen on the same coin, multiplying its rarity exponentially rather than additively. And collectors know that a coin with 3 or 4 verified errors is not just rare, it is statistically miraculous. And one cannot ignore the intrigue surrounding transitional composition errors, because although 2006 cents were officially copper-plated zinc, there is ongoing speculation about experimental blanks, test strikes, or leftover materials from other minting projects, and while the mint rarely confirms such occurrences publicly, history has proven time and again that unexpected transitional pieces do escape into circulation, sometimes unnoticed for decades, and when discovered later, their values explode as collectors scramble to own proof of a minting anomaly that was never supposed to exist. And adding to the mystery is the possibility of missing mint marks or altered mint marks, because while a missing D mint mark on a 2006 cent would normally suggest post-mint damage, an authentic missing mint mark due to grease-filled dies or die polishing at a critical stage could create a legitimate variety if properly documented and authenticated, and authentication is everything in this realm. Because without third-party grading and metallurgical testing, even the most incredible error story remains speculation. Yet when science confirms an anomaly, belief turns into bidding wars. And speaking of die issues, die cracks, retained cut breaks, and full cut errors offer another path to extreme rarity, because a 2006 D cent with a massive retained cut that dramatically alters Lincoln's portrait or obliterates parts of the design while remaining intact would be visually stunning and highly desirable. And visual impact matters immensely when collectors decide how much they are willing to pay, because a coin that tells its story instantly through appearance commands more attention than one whose rarity must be explained. And there is also the phenomenon of strike-through errors, where foreign material such as cloth, grease, metal shavings, or wire interferes with the strike, leaving behind ghostly impressions that appear frozen in time. And a dramatic strike-through on a 2006 D cent combined with pristine surfaces elsewhere would elevate it beyond a novelty into a serious collector's prize, especially if the material that caused the strike-through could be identified or partially retained. and while many people underestimate modern coins, advanced collectors understand that modern errors can be rarer than classic ones because the systems designed to prevent them are far more sophisticated. Meaning, when something does go wrong, it often happens once and never again. And that singularity is where million-dollar potential begins, and beyond physical errors, provenance plays a powerful role, because if a 2006 D penny were discovered in an original mint bag, a sealed roll, or documented hoard with verifiable history, its credibility and desirability would increase dramatically, as collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a story, a moment in minting history captured on a tiny disc. And when a coin combines extreme error rarity, flawless preservation, confirmed composition anomalies, and an ironclad chain of custody, the valuation becomes limited only by the wealth and passion of the collectors competing for it. And in a world where elite numismatists regularly spend millions on unique pieces, the idea of a $21 million penny no longer sounds absurd but instead becomes a reflection of how scarcity, demand, and storytelling intersect. And what makes the 2006 D cent especially intriguing is that billions were made. Meaning countless examples still sit unnoticed in jars, drawers, and collections, creating the tantalizing possibility that a life-changing discovery could still be waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for, someone who takes the time to weigh their coins, examine edges, inspect lettering under magnification, and question anything that looks even slightly off, because history shows us that the most valuable coins were often dismissed at first as damaged or strange before someone recognized their true significance. And that is why stories like this continue to inspire collectors around the world, reminding us that value is not always obvious, rarity is not always loud, and sometimes the smallest coin can carry the biggest secret. And as we explore the legend of the 2006 D penny and its rumored $21 million potential, the real takeaway is not just the money but the thrill of discovery, the patience of research, and the idea that history is still being written every time a coin passes through human hands. And if you've ever wondered whether the change in your pocket could be something extraordinary, this story proves that it just might be. And that's why we keep searching, learning, and sharing these incredible numismatic mysteries together. So if you enjoy uncovering the hidden value behind everyday coins and want to stay part of a community that looks beyond face value, make sure you stay connected with the channel. Next. 2008 1 cent today. This is the place where everyday pocket change turns into hidden treasure stories and where ordinary-looking coins reveal extraordinary secrets. And in today's deep dive, we're uncovering one of the most fascinating modern penny mysteries ever discussed in numismatic circles, the unbelievable story of how a simple 2008 1 cent coin, a coin many people still overlook in jars, drawers, and old wallets, has been whispered about as being worth up to $1.5 million because of rare errors, minting mistakes, and unique possibilities that transformed an everyday cent into a legendary collectible. And as you settle in, imagine holding a coin that looks almost identical to millions of others but secretly carries traits that could change a life forever, because the 2008 Lincoln cent was struck during a transitional era in modern minting technology, when the U.S. Mint was balancing high-speed production with evolving metal compositions, stricter quality controls, and massive demand for circulating coinage. Yet even with advanced machines, mistakes still happened, and sometimes those mistakes aligned in such a perfect storm that they created coins so rare, so unusual, and so desirable that collectors would pay staggering sums to own them. And the 2008 1 cent becomes especially intriguing when you understand the background of its production, as it was made primarily of copper-plated zinc, a composition introduced decades earlier but still prone to plating issues, bonding flaws, and planchet irregularities, all of which laid the groundwork for some of the most dramatic error coins imaginable. And among the most talked about possibilities are dramatic off-metal strikes, where a 2008 penny may have been struck on a wrong planchet intended for another denomination or even another year, such as a bronze planchet left over from earlier decades or a foreign planchet that slipped into the production line, and when such an event occurs, the resulting coin often has a different weight, color, sound, and overall appearance, making it instantly intriguing to experienced collectors, and if authenticated, such an error can skyrocket in value, sometimes reaching 6 or 7 figures when combined with pristine condition and clear documentation. And then there are double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coin receives a misaligned impression during its creation, causing the design elements like the date, lettering, or Lincoln's portrait to appear doubled. And while minor doubling is relatively common, extreme and well-defined double dies are incredibly rare, and a strong double die on a 2008 cent, especially one affecting the date and inscriptions, could become one of the most famous modern double dies ever discovered, driving intense bidding wars among collectors who specialize in error coins. And beyond doubling, there is the phenomenon of multiple strikes, where a coin is struck more than once by the press, sometimes while rotated or offset, leading to surreal, layered designs that look almost artistic. And when a 2008 penny exhibits multiple strikes that are clearly visible and dramatic, it becomes a tangible record of a mechanical malfunction frozen in metal, a moment where the minting process literally stumbled, and collectors prize these pieces not just for rarity but for the story they tell, because each misstrike is unique, and uniqueness is the heartbeat of high-value numismatics. And another major category that fuels the million-dollar speculation is the presence of broad strikes and off-center strikes, where the coin was not properly seated within the collar die, allowing the metal to spread outward unnaturally or causing the design to be partially missing. And while minor off-center strikes are collected at modest premiums, extreme examples showing large blank areas while still retaining a full date can command astonishing prices, especially when combined with other errors. And then there are die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, which occur when the die itself becomes damaged during repeated use, transferring raised lines, blobs, or missing sections onto the coins it strikes. And a massive cut on a 2008 cent, particularly one that disrupts Lincoln's portrait or the lettering in a dramatic way, could become a one-of-a-kind showpiece, the kind that major auction houses highlight as a centerpiece lot. And condition plays a monumental role here, because error coins that survive in high-grade, uncirculated, or near-perfect condition are exponentially rarer than worn examples. And when you imagine a 2008 penny with a spectacular error that somehow escaped circulation and remained pristine, you begin to understand how values can climb into the realm of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And then there's the allure of transitional errors, where a coin is struck during a period of change, such as when dies are modified, compositions are tested, or new processes are introduced. And while 2008 was not officially a composition change year like 1982, the mint was still refining plating techniques and press calibrations, opening the door to unusual experimental anomalies that may never have been officially documented. And undocumented errors are the stuff of legend because they spark debate, research, and intense scrutiny, all of which fuel collector demand. And we can't ignore the possibility of missing design elements, such as missing mint marks, weak strikes, or partially absent inscriptions caused by grease-filled dies. And while grease errors are often dismissed as minor, extreme cases where large portions of the design are missing can become highly desirable, especially if they create a visually striking and unmistakable appearance. And the 2008 cent also benefits from its modern status, because modern error coins are easier to authenticate with advanced technology, including metallurgical analysis, die state studies, and high-resolution imaging, which gives collectors confidence to spend large sums when a truly exceptional piece emerges. And the story grows even more compelling when you consider the psychology of collecting, because the idea that a coin you might still find in everyday change could be worth a fortune creates an emotional connection that older, already famous rarities don't always have. And that emotional pull drives people to search, to dream, and to bid aggressively when a legendary specimen finally appears at auction. and auction results themselves can create feedback loops, because when one extraordinary coin sells for a record price, it elevates the perceived value of similar pieces, even if only a handful exist, and speculation about a $1.5 million 2008 penny is fueled by comparisons to other modern era coins that have shattered expectations, proving that age alone does not determine value. Rarity and demand do, and when rarity is extreme, demand can become almost limitless among elite collectors, museums, and investors who want a centerpiece item that defines an era, and the Lincoln Cent series has a devoted following that spans generations, making any major discovery within the series instantly significant, and the 2008 date sits at an interesting crossroads just before the 2009 bicentennial redesign, which adds historical context and narrative appeal, and narrative is powerful in numismatics, because collectors are storytellers at heart. And a coin with a dramatic backstory becomes more than metal, it becomes history you can hold, and that's why even rumors of a seven-figure 2008 penny capture attention, spark conversations, and inspire endless searching. And while not every 2008 cent is valuable, and most are worth only face value, the possibility that a handful exist with mind-blowing errors keeps the hunt alive, and it reminds us that the minting process, despite all its automation, is still a human endeavor subject to imperfection. Last. Today, because if you love hidden treasure, everyday objects turning into life-changing discoveries, and the fascinating world of US coins, then you are absolutely in the right place. And today we are diving deep into a modern penny that most people would never look at twice, yet according to collectors, era specialists, and long-time numismatic hunters, this humble coin has the potential to be worth an astonishing $6 million. Yes, you heard that right, $6 million for a single 2013 D1 cent coin, and in this video we are going to explore in detail how that kind of value is even possible, what kinds of errors, mistakes, and rare production anomalies could turn a regular copper-colored penny into a multi-million-dollar prize, and why coins like this often sit unnoticed in pockets, jars, and drawers for years before someone finally realizes what they have. So get comfortable, stay with me until the end, and let's uncover how a 2013 D Lincoln Cent could become one of the most valuable modern pennies ever imagined, because the story of this coin is not just about metal and minting, it's about probability, history, human error, and the incredible possibility that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places. Now, to understand why a 2013 D penny could even be mentioned in the same sentence as millions of dollars, we first need to understand the environment in which it was made. By 2013, the US Mint was producing billions of pennies each year, especially at the Denver Mint, which struck coins marked with the D Mint mark. These coins were mass-produced at extremely high speeds using modern machinery, automation, and quality control systems designed to minimize mistakes. But here's the paradox that makes error coins so fascinating. The higher the production numbers and the faster the machines run, the more opportunities there are for rare and dramatic errors to slip through, and when an error survives unnoticed, escapes the mint, and enters circulation, it becomes a snapshot of a mechanical failure frozen in time, and collectors pay enormous premiums for these moments when the system failed in a unique and visually striking way. Now, the 2013 D Lincoln Cent is part of the modern Shield Reverse series, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating. And on the surface these coins look identical to billions of others, but the value does not come from the design itself, it comes from what can go wrong during the minting process, and there are several categories of errors and mistakes that experts believe could elevate a 2013 D penny into the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles. One of the most talked about possibilities is a major off-metal error. This occurs when a coin is struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination or even a different metal composition altogether. Imagine a 2013 D cent struck on a silver planchet meant for a dime, or a copper-nickel planchet intended for a foreign coin, Or even more dramatically, a planchet meant for a gold coin or experimental alloy. These kinds of errors are incredibly rare, especially in the modern era where planchets are carefully controlled and separated, but history has shown that they do happen, and when they do, the values can be staggering. A confirmed 2013 penny struck on the wrong metal with full design details, proper weight variance, and authentication from a top grading service could command prices that reach into the millions, especially if the metal itself is precious and the error is unique or one of a kind. Another major category of errors that could justify a $6 million valuation is a dramatic double strike or multiple strike error. This happens when a coin fails to eject properly from the striking chamber and is struck again, sometimes multiple times, at different angles or with partial impressions, creating a chaotic and visually stunning result. While minor double strikes are known and collected, an extreme multiple strike with full details, misalignment, overlapping designs, and a clear Denver mint mark could be considered a masterpiece of mint error art, and collectors often describe such coins as irreplaceable because no two errors are exactly the same, and when rarity meets visual impact, prices can escalate rapidly, especially if the error is discovered in pristine condition. Another highly valuable possibility involves a wrong design or mule error. A mule occurs when the obverse die of one coin is paired with the reverse die of another, resulting in a hybrid that was never meant to exist. For example, a 2013 Lincoln Cent obverse paired with a reverse from a different denomination or even a different year or series. Mule errors are among the most famous and expensive in U.S. coinage history, and some have sold for millions because they represent a fundamental breakdown in the minting process. If a 2013 penny were discovered with a mismatched reverse or an incompatible die pairing, it would instantly become one of the most talked about modern coins in existence. Another error that plays a major role in high valuations is a major die error, such as a die cap, die break, or retained cud. A die cap occurs when a coin sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes subsequent planchets, gradually forming a cap-like shape with distorted or missing details. While these errors are more commonly associated with earlier coins, a modern example in high grade would be extremely rare. A massive die break or cud, where a piece of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob or missing design area on the coin, could also be highly valuable if it is large, dramatic, and clearly attributable to a specific die state, especially if only a handful of such coins are known. Another extraordinary possibility involves a wrong planchet thickness or bonded planchet error, where two planchets are bonded together and struck as one, or where a planchet of incorrect thickness is used, creating a coin with abnormal weight and dimensions. These errors often require precise measurement and expert analysis to confirm, but once authenticated, they can command enormous premiums, especially if the coin shows full strike detail and minimal post-mint damage. Yet another category that fuels the legend of a $6 million 2013 penny is a missing or incorrect mint mark error. Combined with another major flaw, while missing mint marks alone are not always rare in modern coins due to changes in minting practices, a missing or altered mint mark paired with another dramatic error could create a unique combination that collectors would fight over, especially if the coin can be traced to a specific production run or error event at the Denver Mint. Then there is the fascinating world of transitional errors, which occur when the mint changes materials, designs, or processes, and leftover components from one period are accidentally used in another. While 2013 was not officially a year of major composition change for cents, transitional errors have surprised collectors before, and if a 2013 penny were discovered with a composition or design element from a previous or experimental issue, it would instantly become legendary. All of these possibilities are magnified by the condition of the coin, because error coins in mint state condition with minimal handling, strong luster, and sharp details are exponentially more valuable than those that show wear, damage, or corrosion, and this is why some of the most valuable coins in the world were found not in circulation, but in sealed rolls, mint bags, or collections that were stored away and forgotten. The idea that a 2013 D penny could be worth $6 million also depends heavily on verification, provenance, and market demand. Authentication by major grading services like PCGS or NGC is absolutely critical. As these organizations use advanced technology, metallurgical testing, and expert analysis to confirm the legitimacy of error coins, once a coin is certified and encapsulated, it becomes eligible for high-profile auctions where wealthy collectors, museums, and investors compete for ownership, and in such an environment, prices can soar far beyond initial expectations. Especially if the coin is promoted as unique or historically significant, it's also important to understand that numismatic value is not just about metal or error type, it's about storytelling, the story of how the error occurred, how it was discovered, and how it fits into the broader history of U.S. coinage all contribute to its allure. A 2013 D penny discovered by an ordinary person in everyday change.